I can't tell you how many times that I have started recording, re-recorded, re-edited, tried again to bring you this video. But that's because I have certain standards that I set for myself, and I don't want to push out something that's shitty. So, today, let's go ahead and take a look at Unholy Death Knight, and we're going to bust everything down for you so you can understand how to play Unholy Death Knight the right way. Okay, let's jump in the game. So here we are in our lovely home in Maldraxxus. I have a many opened up over here on our Soulbinds, who's going to be our best Soulbind when all is said and done. I've unlocked already the potency conduits that are necessary for us to have the proper build, as well as pulled up the talents so we can go over everything. And then we'll talk about how you can actually be an effective Unholy Death Knight. So, first off, we're going to want Eternal Hunger. That's our best in slot potency conduit. The follow-up is going to be Embrace Death, which is going to increase the damage of our death coils. So you may already be thinking, well, how could this possibly lead to the best build when there are other better AoE options? Well, the point is this. Your Abomination, when it's transformed now, it's automatically linked with Hell Chains, which was an Azurite ability from BFA. It does deal a lot of damage, and you're going to be using your Epidemics and your Death Coils in order to keep up your transformation for longer amounts of time. This is going to synergize with several other things that you're going to be able to do. So, our opening rotation is going to be your Dark Transformation, an Unholy Blight, followed by an Apocalypse. You will be using your Soul Reaper, which is your 4th row talent, Festering Strike, Scourge Strike, and then either Epidemic or Death Coil, depending on how many targets you have. In particular, this talent build that we have pulled up over here, which is all will serve Unholy Blight, Asphyxiate, Soul Reaper, Wraithwalk, Unholy Pack, Army of the Damned, is considered our raid build, which is our single target priority. But what you'll begin to understand as you play this is that it's really not just a single target build. It's very effective in AoE and cleave situations as well. There are a number of things that synergize very well when you're talking about an Unholy Death Knight, so let's go over some of the basics. Let's go over here and let's drop a Death and Decay. So your Death and Decay is going to allow your Scourge Strike to cleave onto multiple targets. It is capped at 5 targets currently, so it is your primary target plus 4 nearby targets, which makes for very powerful AoE. So initially you'll want to open up with an Outbreak on a pack, pop your Dark Transformation, then hit your Unholy Blight, which is going to give you a damage bonus, hit your Apocalypse, drop a Soul Reaper, Fester Strike to make sure that your Festering Wound Dot is up, and then Scourge Strike away to spend your Runic Power. That is the general basic flow of your rotation. What comes after your Scourge Striking is either your Epidemic or Dark Coil resource spending. So, the important thing to understand when talking about Unholy Death Knight is that we have what are called runes. Runes go along with our runic power. We have 6 runes at a time and 100 runic power total. So, those 6 runes, you want them always to be recharging. We have the ability to recharge all of our runes at the same time. So what does this mean? So, when you open up on your rotation, you're going to bring yourself down to essentially 1 rune. You want to keep yourself in the 1 to 3 rune range as you're spending on your abilities. You never want to be capping all 6 at the same time. You always want to be spending as much as possible. If you are not doing this, you are not using your resources properly and your DPS will suffer. So this means that we have to prioritize our cooldowns in a smart and effective way. Now, we have a pack of mobs in front of us. We're going blasting. We've opened up on our rotation. We have the ability to either pop Epidemic or Death Coil, keeping in mind that we have our conduit in place, which will increase the time of our Dark Transformation. So, When you Epidemic or Death Coil, it will allow Dark Transformation to be up longer. So those should be some sort of priority for what you need to press, based on the number of targets. Unholy Death Knight requires you really to put in a lot of thought into how your rotation works on the fly. There are cooldowns that need to be popped consistently. There are cooldowns that can be popped at certain times to optimize DPS windows. Specifically, this is talking about Unholy Blight synergizing with Dark Transformation as well as Apocalypse and Army of the Dead. Now, Army of the Dead, special case, the only time you really want to be popping Army of the Dead is when you know you're going to be benefiting from Lust. Now, your Army of Ghouls, when they are hit with that haste increase, they attack much more efficiently, and your army's damage window goes from a smaller number here to a much larger, chunkier number here. So always keep that in mind. When you're on a raid encounter, and you know that there's a Lust available, and you know when the raid is going to be asking or calling for Lust, you should be pre-popping your Army of the Dead within 1 to 2 seconds of that Lust phase. So that way your ghouls will be up and they will gain the entire benefit of being within that Lust. Now, back to what we were talking about before, though, without worrying about Army of the Dead. Your Unholy Blight, as you can see here, says on the bottom of your tooltip, your minions deal 3% increased damage per stack to enemies inflicted by Unholy Blight. So, we want our ghoul to be transformed, our Unholy Blight to be hit, and then our Apocalypse to strike next. What this will do is ensure that both our transformed Abomination and our ghouls from Apocalypse will be dealing increased amounts of damage. That is what we call perfect synergy. So those three should always be working together. Now, they don't all cool down at the same time. Apocalypse is a 1.3 minute cooldown. Dark Transformation is a 1 minute cooldown, and Unholy Blight is a 45-second cooldown. So, the best way that I've found to manage this is to make sure that I always pop Dark Transformation on cooldown, and then follow it up with an Unholy Blight. So I'm never using Unholy Blight just on cooldown. I am trying to maximize the damage that my Dark Transformation can do. So, keep that in mind. You will then have windows where Apocalypse will also be available when you're using these other two. That is when you should be hitting your Apocalypse. So, you don't want to just cast Apocalypse because Apocalypse is up. You want it to benefit from Unholy Blight. That said, the other thing you need to smartly be thinking about and how you apply is Soul Reaper. Now, I said initially you're going to want to put a Soul Reaper up in the beginning, and that's true. You pretty much want to use Soul Reaper whenever it comes off of cooldown. But understand this, that there is an execute phase to Soul Reaper, as you can see in the tooltip. After 5 seconds, if the target is below 35% health, this effect will explode, dealing an additional 3006 shadow damage to the target. If the enemy yields experience or honor, dies while afflicted by the Soul Reaper, you will gain Runic Corruption. So, this will help give you another boost phase. So, what's Runic Corruption? Well, Runic Corruption is a passive ability that we have. What happens is that each runic power that you spend has a 1.6% chance to increase your rune regeneration rate by 100%. So you have a very, very small opportunity to gain a lot of runic power in a short amount of time, which means that when that procs, it is a great time to drop your Death and Decay, Scourge Strike, and Death Coil or Epidemic away. To recap, the most important things to understand about DPSing on an Unholy Death Knight is that your dots must be managed and maintained, your procs must be efficiently used. I like to call this class the Big Brain class, because unlike other easier specs in the game, it does require a little bit of forethought as well as presence of mind within the moment. So you need a lot of situational awareness to play this class truly effectively. Bicep Pumps has put out 2 excellent videos this past week dealing with Unholy Death Knight. As far as who is the official king of Unholy Death Knights and theory crafting behind them, it's him. So if you can, go ahead and check out his videos as well after you've finished with mine. Now, I don't really think there's much more to go over rotationally, but I do think there are a few things that we should discuss with the Soulbinds. So we'll dive back into a menu over here, who again is currently going to be our best in slot. Once we have everything unlocked, our 2 potency conduits will be in play, which will produce the maximum amount of damage that we can do in a single target or cleave situation. You will unlock a choice here between, I can't even read that because I don't have my glasses on. This is how you know you're getting old. We'll keep this in because it's funny. You will be able to choose either Cartilaginous Legs, which is after taking falling damage, the health loss becomes a shield. Don't know when that'll really be effective outside of the other side boss, and perhaps, yeah, pretty much just one boss on the other side is who I can really think of where that will be benefit. So most likely you're probably going to want to go with Hearth Kidney Stone, which will allow you to tune your kidney stone to any resting location. So basically you'll have like 2 Hearth Stones at 2 different locations. Nothing really to write home about. The true power is lead by example, which allows your Abomination Limb to increase your strength by 5%, as well as boosting the primary stats of your allies by 2% over the 20-second window. Great ability to have. It's why Necrolord is the best in slot for us, as it provides us that big boost to our primary stat. The other thing to understand, though, is that also our Slappy Hands, as I'd like to call them, otherwise known as the Abomination Limb if you want the proper name, Slappy Boy over here benefits from haste. So as we get more haste, and we have procs that generate haste for us within our build, it will help us do a lot more damage and have a better damaging window if we use that appropriately. So generally you do want to use it when it's off of cooldown, because the ability does do a decent sizable chunk of damage. But if you can synergize it to when you are experiencing a haste buff, it will do a lot more damage. So that's something to keep in mind. Well, that's it. I couldn't break this down any simpler at this point. It really comes down to understanding the situations that you are in, and then dealing DPS based on those situations. When to use your single target, when to use your AoE cleave, when to drop your Death and Decay, when are you getting close to capping on your runic power, and when are you over or underspending your runes. Keeping your runic power in check, as well as your rune generation in check, is truly the key to maximizing your DPS. And that same can be said for pretty much any class in the game that has a resource spender. The one thing that I do want some to take note of, there are a lot more buttons to press in this expansion overall. So I would highly suggest, if you can, get an MMO mouse so your key bindings can look a little bit better. I use, of course, 1 through dash, which is effectively on an MMO mouse 1 through 12. You can shift bind and get a second row there. I also like to use FTG for key binding, as well as Shift FGT. R is always interrupt on any character that has an interrupt or a stun. If you have 2, it's R and Shift R. That is the way I do it. Ghoul does have an ability called Gnaw, which will act as a stun. It's possible for you to put that on your keybinds and use it as you see fit. You can also do it with a mouse over macro if you want. There are many, many ways of optimizing having that extra stun, which is always great to have. I'm currently playing on a Tauren, so I have an extra stun. I don't really feel like managing my ghouls that much. I kind of think I'm leaning towards race change into an orc, both for the DPS increase and as well as the transmogs looking a little bit better. I switched to Tauren because I haven't played a Tauren character basically since since vanilla. I don't like the way transmogs look on them a lot. So I think I'm going to spend the bucks and go ahead and get that race change over to orc, so I can get both a DPS benefit and as well as some really decent looking transmods. But anyway, that's the end of this video. Comment down below, what kind of Death Knight are you now that the gambit is open? We can be pretty much any class, any race as a Death Knight. So let me know down below, what kind of Death Knight are you? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. As always, stay deleting, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.